2, 1. Transition happens now.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the very first run of Pixels for People 2022. We are starting off with the Colin McRae rally being run by ViperRaces. There was indeed a donation being done at the very beginning when we first went live, done by Omnery, which is $20. Thank you so much, with the message of heyo, and heyo to everybody who is currently here with us at the very, very beginning on the first run. There was indeed an incentive, a poll for this game, which was Seat Ibiza. But we're going to go ahead and hand it off to ViperRaces, who is going to be running Colin McRae Rally to start us off. Let's get hype!
Indeed. First run of the day. I'll be honest, I've not actually ever kicked a marathon off before, so this is the first time for everything. So the car you picked was the Seat Ibiza Kit Car, or Seat Ibiza Kit Car Evo 2, because they all have long titles and stuff. This is the Novice Championship for Colin McRae Rally, the game released back in 1998. This is the PC port. It has been known that if you play this game, it's a bit more tricky to run on PC due to problems with like the modern update, you know, the modern system and so on. So I always recommend using the PS1 version unless you can get the PC version working pretty well. Then obviously try and give that a run. Anyhow, so I'll just allow me to quickly explain who I am and also the run a little bit. I'll get more into the run as it goes. But yeah, I'm ViperRaces, also known as Viper UK or just Viper, whichever one you want to call me. I primarily speedrun racing games. From start to finish, more or less. There is like a mixture of other games that I do, but racing is primarily my focus. I've always been a car person. Like I said, Colin McRae Rally, 1998. We're doing the Novice Championship, which consists of 6 rallies with 3 stages each. So you got New Zealand, Greece, Monte Carlo, or in some versions of the game it's known as Austria for some reason, Australia, Sweden, and Corsica to round out the championship. Now the estimate for this is about 55 minutes. The run should be done in about 52, maybe 53 minutes, even at worst case scenario. So, no problem with going under estimate. Anyway, if we're ready on time, I'll give you guys a countdown and we can get straight into the game and the run. So, if we're ready, I'll give you guys a countdown in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go. Okay, so, first and foremost, Colin McRae Rally. Like I said, released in 1998, it was the first game in a very famous rallying series. Now, I will say, for the most part, this is a simple point A to point B. The idea of a rally stage is to get through from one side to the other whilst passing through checkpoints and to try and beat the AI as best as possible. Now, us being on the Novice Championship, this is the easiest category to go for as a beginner. Now, I will just mention a few statistics about the cars that were on the donation incentive. So, out of the 4 cars, the Seat Ibiza, believe it or not, is actually the worst. For those that didn't know, so out of the 4 cars, the Ibiza, I think, has 220 horsepower. The Skoda Felicia has 240. The Renault Megane has 250, and the VW Golf GTI also has 250. Out of the 4 cars, the VW Golf is the best car out of the 4. The reason I know this is because of the fact that I used to do runs with the Skoda Felicia because I always thought that was the better car to use. However, after further progression into the game, found out that the Golf was much quicker on the straight, so it has a longer wheelbase, which allows it to gain more speed in a straight line. Better acceleration, better cornering ability, and the car is more stable. So there will be a few minor shortcuts here and there during the entire run. But for the most part, like I said, fairly straightforward run from point A to point B. Now, I will mention that at various points during this run, we have at every single point in the championship, you have a save game thing that pops up, which we always put no at. But obviously, if you're playing it through for the first time, you obviously want to make sure that you're saving as you go. The other thing to mention is that in Novice, Intermediate, and Expert, the 3 difficulties that you get in this game, Novice is, like I said, 6 rallies comprised of 3 stages apiece. Intermediate and Expert are basically the same length. Except there's a difference. Apart from the AI being more difficult, Expert is basically anything goes. So, in the intermediate, every rally has 6 stages, about 3 rallies. So, the 3 rallies that we are looking at are... oh, get that. There we go. There we go. Get that out of the way. Nice. So the 4 rallies that have an extra stage in them are Greece, Australia, Corsica, and the UK. Intermediate and expert have 2 rallies on top of the 6 that we do in the Novice Championship, which are Indonesia and the UK. Indonesia is very tricky rally from start to finish. It's very, very tough on the player. And the UK is even more tough due to the fact that it has a mixture of snow, it has a mixture of gravel, mud, ice in some parts of the first 2 stages. And it is, with the UK's typical weather, we do have, obviously, a lot of rain that occurs during that rally. But the intermediate and expert runs, as you might have guessed, are, Novice is 55 minutes or 50-ish minutes. Probably just short of an hour, possibly, for maybe the casual player, or a little over an hour, probably. Intermediate takes around 2.5 hours, and expert is slightly faster. Now, I will just go ahead and kind of spoil the surprise here. During intermediate and expert, intermediate most notably, I'll start with the intermediate one. So, the way the 3 championships are split up are, Novice is split up into the 2-wheel drive cars, which is what we are driving right now. This is a 2-wheel drive, more specifically front-wheel drive car that we are driving. The intermediate championship is comprised of 4-wheel drive cars, which includes the Subaru Impreza, the good old trusty Subaru Impreza WRC, the Mitsubishi Mitsubishi Lancer Evo 4, the Ford Escort, and the Toyota Corolla. And them cars are a lot more powerful, coming in at about the 300 horsepower range, there or thereabouts. And then we have the expert. Now, during the course of intermediate, especially the super special stages, which is a head-to-head stage against one other opponent, you race head-to-head against the other opponent, and if you win the super special stages in intermediate, you unlock a bonus car. So it's not a case of if you win the rally, it's if you win the super special stage. So you have to win the head-to-head to unlock the bonus cars. The 4 bonus cars are the Ford Escort Mark II, which is the slowest and worst car in the game, even worse than the 2-wheel drive cars. The Ford RS200, which is a 480 horsepower beast, I believe it is. There is the Lancia Delta Integrale, which is about 390 horsepower. And finally, there's the Audi Quattro, which is the most OP car in this entire game, which comes in at around 520, 530 horsepower. It's pretty insane, for the most part. So, yeah, pretty crazy. Also, we are going to do our first change in the game here. So we're going to change to wet tyres because this stage is wet. We will be making a few setup changes before each stage. Not before every stage, but some stages will be changing certain things. For example, in Greece, we changed the gearbox from max acceleration to good acceleration. This still gives us a good amount of speed and allows us to go faster down the straights. In Monte Carlo, we will be changing the gearbox to good acceleration. Australia, we don't need to change anything. Sweden, I usually keep it at max acceleration for the first stage and then switch it to good acceleration for stages 2 and 3 because there is a good bit of straight road in Sweden for that. Corsica is a mix of max acceleration, good acceleration, and max acceleration again. So we'll be changing the gearbox twice during that. Now, one thing that's worth mentioning during those service areas, by the way, is that in the surface areas, you can obviously repair damage. Now, depending on the difficulty, will depend on how much time it takes to repair the car. So, for example, in Novice, you can wreck the car pretty bad, and you can usually repair the car with a fair bit of time still left over. Intermediate and expert, on the other hand, are much more tricky, with expert obviously being the hardest of the bunch. Now, I will just say as well that as well as the main championship, which is the main categories in the game, there is also a subcategory which is called Rally School. Rally School consists of several different tests. Now, essentially, for any new player, it is recommended that you do the Rally School before you do the championships, mainly because of the fact that it eases you into the game, gets you a lot better at it, and yeah, it just makes it a lot easier, so you can get used to like the mechanics and things like that. The thing is with that game, I'm just gonna... Whee! Okay, we're already flipping over. Good stuff. That'll be the first time I've done that in a while. It's fine. It's fine. We keep on going. We keep on progressing. I went a bit too wide there. That's my fault.
May I chime in? It was a donation?
Yeah, sure.
Absolutely. Okay, so we have a $50 donation by Siberian Bull 9. Getting breakfast. See you in an hour. That is a runner that is going to be coming up in the Mega Man block. Thank you so much, Siberian Bull, for that. The target for that went to Cyber Shadow Egg %. So, thank you once again, Siberian Bull, for the $50 donation.
No problem. Thank you very much. What's I saying? Yeah. So the car damage model on this is, I'd say, isn't too basic, but it is probably better than what was around at the time. The only thing that probably would come close to the damage model back in 1998 would probably be the Destruction Derby games, which were known for having very good damage effects, and same with the Driver series as well, which funnily enough started the year after this, for those that may remember that. But yeah, like I said, so with the damage model and things like that, it gets harder as you go, depending through difficulties. The Rally School, as I said as well, they have Novice, Intermediate, and Expert on that. That is supposed to be an introduction to the game. It's supposed to make things very interesting, and it's quite a quick category as well. So the category used to be very difficult. There we go. The category used to be very difficult because of the fact that the whole point of the whole point of Rally School is obviously to introduce you to the game. And obviously, the trials get a bit harder as you go. But then, one thing that we found out, so the run used to be about, I think it was like 10 minutes or 11 minutes or something, or no, it was longer than that. It was about 15 minutes. The PC record is about 7.5 minutes. The PS1 record is 10.5 minutes due to load times. Because of the fact that somebody found out that if you decided that for whatever reason you wanted to, I don't know, somebody decided that if you wanted to beat it easy, then there was a nice little trick, a nice little shortcut, should I say. So it turns out that on the final 3 trials of the game, the start and finish line are right next to each other. So if you cut between some trees, the game doesn't respawn you. You cut through the trees and beat a trial, which normally takes about 2 minutes in length each time you do it. Takes about 18 seconds. So fair to say that cut a big chunk of time out, and obviously with PC's fast loading times as well, it came down pretty fast pretty quickly. There is also, for those intrigued, there is also a 100% category for this game as well, which involves beating the Rally School, the Novice, the Intermediate, and the Expert Championships. That category on PS1 I think is about 6.5 hours, and PC is like 5 hours and 50-something minutes, or 40-something minutes. It's a long run. If you're into long runs, then maybe that will be the one for you, but as a starter category, the Novice Championship is the easiest one of the bunch. So one thing I haven't also mentioned, obviously, welcome to Greece, by the way, I do apologise, I haven't even mentioned it yet. But one other thing that I need to mention is the PC version actually has extra content compared to the PS1 version. Why? I guess because it's PC? I don't know. But in the PC version of the game, there's a few extra cheat codes that aren't in the PS1 version. So, for example, in the PC version of the game, you can unlock 2 extra cars, which are the Toyota Celica GT4, which was most infamously thrown out of the 1995 championship, real life WRC championship due to something, I forget what it is. There's a story to do with it. It's like Toyota used to run their turbos higher than what was expected during the stages, but then when the stages are finished, they dropped there was some sort of plate that moved, and that ended up meaning that it was like running at normal boost bar. It was very intriguing. I don't remember how they got away with it, but even the FIA was baffled. That's the governing body, or basically see it as like the people who create the rules for the sport. Even they were baffled by it. What else we got? Yeah, so as I was saying, so the two bonus cars are the Toyota Celica GT4 from the 90s. I think it was 1995, the one that you get in the game. Would make sense. I think it is the one that was thrown out. I'm pretty sure it was 95 one. The other one is the fact of it's something called the Millennium 4 Rally. Now, the Millennium 4 Rally is a very quick car. It's almost as fast as the Audi Quattro, but it isn't as fast. If that makes sense. It's not quite as fast. But it's very intriguing. Let's put it that way. It's a very interesting car. There's 4 bonus stages in this game as well. Or 4 hidden or secret tracks. So there is one that is built in a quarry, which takes about a minute or minute and 20, something like that, to do it. There is one that is called the Mile High Club, which is like it's set. I think it's something like set 20,000 feet in the air, and there's even like a plane that flies around and stuff like that, and you can actually fall off the stage. Like there's no barriers, so you can easily fall 20,000 feet. You get respawned if you fall too far, though, which I think is quite intriguing. It's like, how far will you push and not fall off the edge? The third one is one that looks to be... The only way I can explain it is pretty much Rainbow Road from Mario Kart, except it's a rally stage. It's very cool, very fluorescent, a lot of colours. So it's... Yeah, it kind of messes with your mind. I don't really know, but yeah, it messes with your mind a fair bit. A bit mental. And then the last one is the longest one in the entire... Well, not the longest, well, the longest secret track in the game. So the longest secret track in the game, I forget what the name of it is, but it looks to be like it's set in a futuristic wasteland. So a bit like, if anyone's seen the film WALL-E, how Earth is like completely disintegrated. Yeah, how like it's completely disintegrated. It's like that, pretty much. Nice.
We have another donation, if I might chime in.
Yeah, no worries. Go for it.
Alrighty, we have ourselves a $5 donation from Broken Dylan. There is no message, but he did indeed contribute the $5 toward the Cyber Shadow Pick a Ninja color, which went toward pink. So we're going to be looking at Pink Ninja later on, and also contributed toward the Castlevania Legends upgrade to 100%, so a 100% run of Castlevania Legends. Thank you very much, Broken Dylan. And a quick reminder for anybody who is contributing, we have prizes as well, so if you have a $10 in total donations, you will be entered in for the wall portrait of Super Mario Kart box art. $15 gives you 4 Switch games for your enjoyment, and $25 in total. Keep in mind this is total donations throughout the entire marathon today and tomorrow. 8 Steam games of your enjoyment. There are 2 prize packs of that, so there will be 2 draws for that. So if that's a little bit more incentive to get you guys donating to this fantastic cause, please, if you can, do so. And thank you very much one last time, Broken Dylan, for $5.
No problem. Thank you very much. So the funny thing is, in terms of vehicles in the game, each car does handle differently. Although after a bit, I feel like most cars handle the same. So it's probably worth mentioning about records and times and things like that. So the record for the Novice Championship, which is held by myself, is a 51:23 on PC and a 54:12 on PlayStation. Mainly the PlayStation 1 leaderboard is very, very tightly knit. And And we've had quite a few new runners over the course of like the last few years. The reason why this game stands out for me in my mind a lot isn't because of the whole, you know, retro tinted visors, that sort of thing. But to me, it was the start of something spectacular. So for those that aren't aware or are not sure, so Colin McRae was a famous rally driver. He raced in the WRC. He died in a helicopter crash in 2007, famously winning the 1995 World Rally Championship as his main highlight. Yeah, it was unfortunate about his death when he died. But he's still missed even today by the community of rally drivers. Not just that, though, is that this series kick-started a series which is still in use today. It's still going today. So what started as the Colin McRae Rally franchise has now become the Dirt franchise. So anyone that's played a Dirt game, this is the very first game of that entire series. Now, granted, the series has changed names, so it's kind of classed as the Colin McRae Rally / Dirt series, but which it is, because it is a mix of both. But yeah, so we've had over the years for the games, we had this released in 1998. We had Colin McRae Rally 2, which released in 2000. We had Colin McRae Rally 3, which released in 2002. Colin McRae Rally 04 in 2003, and Colin McRae Rally 2005 in 2004. We also then had a 3-year gap between this game and the next one, which was Colin McRae Dirt, the last game to be released before his death. The second game, which was Colin McRae Dirt 2, which is still classed as one of my favourites, and a lot of people's favourites, came out in 2009. We had Colin McRae, they then dropped the Colin McRae name, so then we had just Dirt, so it was Dirt 3 that released in 2011. Dirt Showdown, which was like a Dirt meets Destruction Derby type game, released in 2012. Then we had a gap, quite a big gap actually, where we had Dirt Rally, what we'll call the modern rally sim, the first one, that released back in 2015. Then we had Dirt 4 in 2017, Dirt Rally 2.0 in 2019, I believe it was. And finally, Dirt 5 coming out, I think it was earlier this year or last year. As far as I know, the Dirt series is still going, but obviously now EA has taken over, so anything can happen. But the series really did evolve quite well for quite a while. The one thing to mention, though, is even though I'm not playing the second game, it's worth mentioning that out of all of the original Colin McRae Rally games, actually, and going into the Dirt series as well, is dynamic weather. So, in Colin McRae Rally 2, in the sequel that followed this up in 2000, they introduced a dynamic weather system. So, unlike most of the other games, so Colin McRae Rally 1, 3, 04, and 2005 all actually had the same weather conditions whenever you played the games through. On the championships, they all have the same weather conditions. If you played Colin McRae Rally 2, however, the game would spawn, I think it was something like a random number would be picked from a database or something like that, that was to do with the game, and the weather would change constantly. It's also the reason why Colin McRae Rally 2, I believe, is one of the most ranked games, because there is that element of RNG to it. Also, that is the first stage done and dusted. But yeah, so the dynamic weather system that was in Colin McRae Rally 2 was the first, and it was the first in the series to have dynamic weather. Not only that, the next time the series actually got dynamic weather was along the lines of Dirt Rally, or Dirt 4, around about then. Dynamic weather, surprisingly, hasn't been anything different. Like, you hear about, the F1 games, for example, they have dynamic weather, it makes sense. All the games have dynamic weather, or well, not all, but most of them do. I'm pretty sure they all try to go with dynamic weather. And you can even do it in some of the old TOCA touring car games too. Funnily enough, also developed by Codemasters. Yeah, it's something very intriguing about it. The fact that that game released in 2000 and has dynamic weather and all these other games didn't, it's very odd. Not only that, as well, is as we found out. So, Colin McRae Rally 2 is one of the most busted, broken, call it what you will, Colin McRae Rally games to ever be made. Now, when we say broken, we literally mean broken. We don't mean a case of, oh, my car's bugged and I've fallen off the track. No, 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 no. We're literally talking you can clip through walls and God knows what. Now, bear in mind, okay, so the Novice Championship for Colin McRae Rally 2 is about an hour and 20 minutes. First timers will probably be looking at about an hour and 50. But if you go and watch the Novice Championship runs that are done by myself, Matique, and several other runners on that leaderboard, you'll see just how broken it is. Some of the cuts are quite straightforward. Like, for example, you'll see me doing this one too. Like, there'll be times where I'll just cut behind trees and things like that. Again, nothing major. Very easy to pull off, and for the regular player, you can pull off too. But then you have the likes of Colin McRae Rally 2's cuts, which involves like going a certain distance out into the water to drive around the respawn point and then come back on land, and then you drive out of bounds, and before you know it, you're at the end of the stage, and you beat the stage in 43 seconds instead of 2.5 minutes. Yeah, pretty broken. Or it's like the respawn side of things for that game is ridiculous. It certainly is something, for damn sure. Also, whilst we're going through Monte Carlo, I might as well quickly mention what I was on about before. So, there was 3 different versions of this game. Obviously, this released in each of the regions. So this released in Japan, it released in North America, and it released in Europe. The North American release of this game on PlayStation 1 is the fastest version to run if you want to speedrun it on PlayStation. With the Japanese version coming close, losing about, I think it's about half a second on load screens. Unlike PAL, which runs at 25 FPS instead of 30, and yeah, is the slowest of the bunch. There was 3 different versions of this game. So this game was, like I said, released in 1998, and it had, when it originally released, it was version 1.0. There was a quick revision shortly following that, which was 1.1. Which I believe is the Black Label copies. Then there was 1.2, which I don't remember exactly what the copies were for that. And then there was version 1.3. So, 4 versions of the game. The version 1.3 was significant because in 1.3, each version had a different design of the Subaru. So, for example, if you play version 1.0 and 1.1, the car is actually the 98 Subaru. If you play version 1.2, it's the 99 Subaru, and if you play the one from version 1.3, it's the 2000 Subaru. The other thing is as well is that the liveries are completely different. So, for example, you have the 22B in the version 1.3 has you drive the Subaru 22B, but it still classes the Subaru Impreza WRC in the game. But in reality, it's actually just the Subaru Impreza 22B. There's no actual rallying involved with it. The easiest way I can just say is that they just removed all the liveries off the rally car and then classed it as a rally car still. That's kind of all they did. So nothing too major there. But also, like I said, the main thing was the fact that they went with, in 1.1 and 1.2, they called this rally Monte Carlo. But in 1.3, it was changed to Austria. Why? I don't know. I genuinely have no idea. As I think anybody will probably attest, is that I'm guessing they were going for the fact of Monte Carlo makes sense. Monaco tends to be like this, you know, like wet roads, very icy and slippery and so on. So it makes makes a lot of sense. The Austria bit, though, took me a while to figure that one out as to why I think they went for that. And the reason why they went for that, I think, was because of the fact of, well, the Swiss Alps. Also, as I said, Australia, you don't have to change any of the settings, so the car's going to stay exactly the same the whole way through. Which is great, because it means we can just do more racing. But yeah, I think that's the reason why they called it Austria, possibly. I'm not 100% sure. Probably have to do a bit more research into that, but I'm pretty much guessing that's why they did what they did. But I don't know. Also, if we've got any donation incentives you want to mention, or any goals or anything about the charity, then feel free to go right ahead.
We have no donations at the time, but I would like to take a moment to talk about Child's Play, where it is basically gamers giving back. Child's Play, they improve the lives of children through the power of play, providing games to children who may not have access to a game as we would back at home. We are going to go ahead and raise money to bring the games to them. This is a great cause. Also, there are incentives that we have for upcoming games later on today. For Owlboy, you can go ahead and make Otis moonwalk, or you can go towards the glitched scene in Advent, as well as in Castlevania Legends. You can change the category to 100%. So if you do make a donation, put it towards a target, put it towards a poll, put it towards an incentive to try to have that donation change the outcome of something that you see on this channel, on the Carter Free channel for Pixels for People. And remember, it's going for the kids. So, if you can, please, let's get those games to those children.
No worries, thank you very much. I'm just, I'm always intrigued to find out who has played certain games. So, for example, like, just to kind of throw it out there, have you ever played one of these games before, or ever seen it before?
Myself, no. I am not. I'm more of an RPG guy, but it's always interesting to see these racing games be done as speedrunning, because the concept of a racing game is to get the best time, to go fast. So I figured that it would just come so naturally to want to go point A, point B as fast as possible. So trying to seeing some of these clips, some of these tricks has always been very intriguing to me.
The funny thing is, so at the end of this first stage here, this is where it gets a bit interesting. So normally you're supposed to go around this big rock at the end. So I'm pretty much flat out here. So I go like this. You go whoop straight through there, and it beats the stage just that little bit faster. Not that much faster, but it goes pretty fast. And we're on to stage 2, just like that. The one thing I will say is that each of these stages have certain stage names. For example, the one we've just done was called Broom Hill. There is Corrigan and also Donnybrook that we're doing. That's the 3 Australia stages that we have. One stage which is synonymous with Colin McRae Rally, and slightly a little bit of the Dirt franchise. Less so with Dirt because of the way the modern direction it's took. But one stage that comes up time and time again is Bluff Knoll. Now, Bluff Knoll has been in a variety of the Colin McRae series. So, for example, it made its debut here. It has also been in Colin McRae Rally 2, 3, 04, 2005, I think, may have made an appearance in there as well. It's also been in Dirt as well. Even progressing as far as, I think it was in Dirt 4. I'm not 100% sure about that one, though. But yeah, it's definitely a fan favourite, and one that is very widely seen during the demo mode if you leave the game to run. Recently, one of the members of the Colin McRae Rally community, who's in the Discord, he actually came across a prototype build for this game, and it got me intrigued to see what sort of differences there were. Anyway, he had a look into it. Turns out there wasn't much difference, but still, it's pretty impressive when you get hold of these prototypes of these games. I will just go as far as saying he's got a prototype / like demo builds of the first game up until 2005. Also, this stage has 2 cuts. We have that one there, which saves about 3 seconds or so. You have to kind of remember where you're going with that and balance your speed. So that's the first one. And then there's one right near the end. Now, the one that's right near the end is a bit difficult. to get right. So if I go a bit quiet, I don't think I'll struggle with it that much, but it has been a while since I've done it. So I'm just hoping I can get through it. Close enough. That was close enough. Kinda close. Kinda close. There we go. There we go. So Donnybrook is quite a fast and flowing stage, as you saw. Also, it's worth mentioning as well, we're over halfway through. We're 4 rallies down. We've just got Sweden and Corsica. Now, I'm just going to explain real quick as well. As I said before about Sweden, we're going to have the max acceleration on the first stage, and then we're going to have good acceleration for stages 2 and 3. Now, Sweden is, I believe, quite close to being the longest, almost longest rally in the game for a variety of reasons. I think it's the longest in the Novice and longest in Intermediate. I'm not sure. Something along them lines. Yeah. That cut, believe it or not, just to kind of point out to those that are in chat as well mentioning it, is that cut behind the trees. Even now, it still scares me because I've gone through. Bear in mind, I had a spectacular finish through there once. So on the Intermediate and Expert, you're plowing through them trees even faster than you would with this car. So this car's like, what, 100 miles an hour is doing that maybe? 90, 100 miles an hour. The Subaru and the Audi go through at about 130, 150 miles an hour, and it is terrifying. I mean, I use my brakes, I dab on the brakes a little bit, but there was one which was really funny, where I actually managed to get through the trees, did an entire backflip in the car, did an entire backflip and managed to land it on its wheels and finish the stage or something. It was pretty crazy. Also, there is a little cut you can do here, which is just go at the side of that water splash, because the water splashes do slow you down. So by cutting around it, you save maybe about a second, if that, half a second. But every little cut helps. And with that, that is Australia done and dusted. Now leads us kindly on to Sweden. So Sweden requires 2 things. A special kind of skill is the first one. So with Sweden, it's known that Sweden is, I mean, in this game it's very slow. This stage takes about 3.5 minutes, but it requires a very special skill to drive on snow and ice. Not only does it require a very special type of skill, it also requires special tyres. So the tyres that we are using right now are spiked tyres. So people, I don't know if anybody's heard of spiked tyres here. You think, wait a minute, are you kidding? So it's like, no, this is not a joke, this is genuine. So the spiked tyres are specifically used for snow and ice. They're used every year, even in the modern day, they're still used. Obviously, some places have snow chains, I believe it is, for tyres. Something that we don't really have over here in the UK. But, yeah, in the rallying world, they don't have snow chains. They have spike tyres. Just the same thing, moves and everything like that. It's also something that's worth mentioning, is that in the real rallying world, Sweden is not as slow as you might think. You think, oh, with all that snow and ice and, you know, it's going to be really slow and things like that. It's not actually, surprisingly enough. The drivers kind of relish the challenge, so I think Sweden has become a driver's favourite as well as a firm fan favourite as well, because, I mean, let's be honest, would you not love to see a car plough through snow and ice at 120 miles an hour? Like, fly through corners and things like that? I mean, I think I would, to be honest.
As somebody from the cold areas of Quebec, that is very much a familiar sight to me, whether they're professional drivers or not. So,
I think it's the same with us in the UK. We have like a lot of it of snow and ice, and everything just kind of craps itself and just goes, oh no, there's a bit of like literally. We're not talking like what some countries get, where it can be like 40 centimeters of snow. Like we're talking maybe like 5, and everything comes to a standstill. It's pretty ridiculous in our country. But the other thing, I haven't even... Do you know what? There's something I haven't even mentioned this entire thing. Camera views. I do apologise. So, this game does have more than one camera view. Your car doesn't just sit behind... The camera cannot just sit behind the car all the time. You have a far view, like this. You also have a bumper view, I think this is. A bonnet camera. And also cockpit view. This is cockpit view from 1998. So make of this what you will. I've never actually tried doing an entire run with this. One thing that is noticeable is that if you're using this camera view when you cross the finish line, and I'll kind of show you. So up until now, the game changes camera for you when you cross the finish line with any other camera. But if I use this camera, watch what happens. I'm now behind the stage.
This has the feeling of an incentive, maybe moving forward, to do an entire run from these perspectives.
Indeed. Oh, I know what I didn't do. I didn't change the gearbox. Never mind. It's not going to lose us too much time. Usually I do change it to good acceleration, but it's fine. But you can see as well, like, it even... oh god. Alright, it even has the windscreen wipers going, which is pretty cool. But, yeah, so there's like a few things to mention as well, is that obviously as the games went on, the graphics obviously improved, as you might expect, through the years. But the funny thing is, so this is something that I haven't mentioned. So in the European release of this game on the PlayStation 1, we're going to just exclude PC for the time being here, because it's only applying to the PlayStation 1 version. So, if you have a copy of Colin McRae Rally 1 for the PlayStation 1, the driver names are pretty much real. Like, I think it's all the driver names, or about 85% of them, are real drivers. So Richard Burns, Didier Auriol, Bruno Thierry, Colin McRae, Piero Liatti, Alistair McKay, Philippe Begalski, I forget who it is, somebody Robin Perra, yeah, I forget who the name was, Callie Robin Perra, that's it, and so on. I think it's Callie Robin Perra. Callie? Not sure. So Robin Perra, but basically the names were the real life names. But if you play the North American and Japanese releases, there's only one name that's actually there that's real, and it's Colin McRae. All the other ones are random names. I'm guessing it's to kind of go with the times. I don't know, maybe. But like, none of them drivers that are in the North American and Japanese releases actually exist. Which I always think is quite funny, to be honest. But yeah, like I said, with snow in our country, it's just kind of like everything just panics and comes to a standstill. A bit ridiculous, really, when you consider that other countries kind of plough on even though they get like 20 centimetres of snow or more. But, yeah, I mean, if you've got any questions, feel free to go ahead and ask. I'm open to answering a few questions, whether it's about the game or about myself. I'm open for questions.
You had mentioned that you hold if I'm not mistaken, if I understood properly, the record for this game. Do you hold any other records, or what is your maybe top threes, if you have any favorites within the racing community?
Oh, that is a good question. So, I mean, I think if I said how many records I had, I think we'd be here all day, personally. So I'd probably say, to answer the other part of the question of like top 3 games or runs that I've done, I'd definitely say Colin McRae Rally 2, the Novice Championship time that I did recently was one of my best. Although I have several runs in that game that were pretty good as well, because I did really push to the limit. Granted, it's not the record. It was the record up until about 2 weeks ago. But even still, I'm going to be going back to it eventually. So that's like one of the 3. The second one would probably be this game. It probably would be the Novice Championship. I was quite proud of the Novice Championship. More specifically, the PS1 version. Not because oh okay, the PC version, there's not really much competition. But because of the fact that on the PS1 version, I think I had the record for quite a while, and someone by the name of Maria, who's also a great CMI runner themselves, beat me by a second, and I'm not kidding. Like, I think it was... So I did like a 54.29, and they did a 54.28, and I was like, wow, okay. And the same day it got beat, I then went on like a 3-hour grind, and the run I came back with was one of the best I've ever done on the game, which was a 54.12. Not only did I beat him, but I also beat my PB by quite a margin. Bear in mind, my driving for that run was already pretty good, and I was kind of worried. I'm not gonna lie. The third game, though, probably wouldn't surprise people, given, like I said before, I do driving and racing and stuff. It would probably be the first Driver game, Driver 1. So I started practicing the game last year, or getting back into wanting to do it on. Now, there's a console record and an emulator record. Now, for the longest of time, the lowest time was a 1:10.43 by someone named Iceman, who claimed that it wasn't unbeatable, but it was a pretty good run. And since then, several new bits of speed tech were found for the game. Like, for example, following one set path was different from another, and also being able to complete missions by going out of bounds as well. That sort of thing. Well, the funny thing is that about a year ago, I think it is actually about a year ago now, but around a year ago, I managed to beat this time after trying for 4 years, and it was one of the most satisfying runs I've ever done. It was unbelievable, really. Yeah, it was a really good run, and I have got plans to go back and get the console time down, because I think the record currently for console is like a 1:13 something by myself. But I want to try and get it down to a 1:11, because I had a run that was at a 1:11 pace once, and it got ruined right on the last mission, or second to last mission, because I hit a taxi hard enough that it flipped my car over and made me fail the mission, and I was like, yeah, I put the game down, walked away from it, and I slowly came back to it again, but albeit on emulator. Beat the record for that, and I've got the hunger and the thirst to go after the console time and get that down and properly get it down to a time that I actually want. But yeah, it's very very difficult to say like what my top 3 all time is, but if I had to, then those are the 3 that I'd bring it down to. Also, welcome to Corsica, by the way. A island off the south of France. I call it Tarmac Heaven. Most runners would probably call it Tarmac Hell. But, honestly, I don't see a bad thing here. I see it being okay. Everything's fine. So, yeah, so stage 1 involves a lot of mind cornering. I don't know if I can call it that. Didn't really make much sense, that. Remembering corners is what I meant. That's what I meant to say. So, if you're fast enough, you can actually take this stage flat out without braking and just use the gears to slow the car down. Which, for the most part, that's what I'm doing. Apart from here. There we go.
For those that
and as well,
that is when you downshift, the compression actually does slow down your vehicle versus people who would probably be driving automatic, tapping on those brakes the entire time.
exactly, yeah. So it's like one thing that I used to do. So first time I ran this game, I think it was 2016. Main reason I ran it though was because of the fact that I played it through that many times when I was younger. I think it's the same for any speedrunner really. They play the game quite a lot either as a kid or just they played it over that many times that they've got really good at it. And for me, this was one of the games that I played for so long that I know pretty much the whole game inside and out, back to front. So much so that about I think it was last year or earlier this year, I did a challenge, or several challenges. So one of the challenges was to beat the Expert Championship using the Subaru Impreza, so the four-wheel drive car. So it's basically a fair match against the AI. I won that with ease. It was like, right, let's make it harder. Let's go with a slower car and see if I can still win. So I went on the Expert Championship with the VW Golf, and I beat the rallies. I won every rally. Didn't win every stage, but won every rally with the VW Golf GTI, and which I considered to be like to kind of just show that yeah, I didn't think I could do it, to be honest, and I was surprised when I pulled it off. And then the next challenge that came, I don't know if someone suggested it or if I came up with it or not, I can't remember, was basically, what about another challenge? Let's make it more difficult. So how about we do this? Every stage is at night, because there's a cheat that sets every stage at night. So it's like, what about every stage at night, backwards, mirrored? And it's in the Audi Quattro. It's like, right, we'll do it in the Audi Quattro. Then, did it in the Audi Quattro. It was like, right, what about the rest? Well, it was a bit more than that, fair to say. Yeah, just a tad bit more. I beat it. I was like, right, okay, let's slow the car down a bit. So I did it with the Subaru Impreza, and I beat it again. And I was like, at this point, I don't think I've got anything left to prove. So I beat the game in reverse, mirrored, and every stage at night. And I pretty much class that as the ultimate challenge. There's one challenge that is impossible. It can't be done. And believe me, we tried. It was basically trying to beat the Expert Championship with the Ford Escort Mark II, which is one of the worst cars in the game. And that actually proved to be impossible, because we got to Australia and I think I lost to third place, which I needed to progress. I lost out to that by about 5 seconds or something. And I was so disappointed. I was like, no, and I couldn't get past, so... But the game would have gotten harder as it went on, which is something. Also, just to mention, before we get to it, so we are about a minute and a bit away from the end of this stage, and time is going to be coming up at the end of the stage. So if whoever's on time, just be ready for when I shout it at the end of the stage. So I'm just going to try and blast my way through the stage if I can. Come on, Kai, you can do it, you can do it. probably worth noting that against the Golf, this car loses about 2 seconds per stage against the Golf. So, hence the reason why I was like 52, maybe 53 minutes. I'm going to aim for sub 53 on this run, which for me is a pretty decent run. Yeah, we're coming up the last few corners now. And time. Just to prove it as well, 60 points, full marks, and we won the Novice Championship. And that's it.
Amazing job. Absolutely incredible. Went fast all the way through, kept those RPMs up. What a way to start off this event with all of those tires burning out. Is there any shout-outs that you'd like to do to the community?
I do, yeah. Just want to quickly mention, obviously, a quick shout-out to my community of guys that have supported me quite a bit over the years. Those now 1K followers now, which is really amazing. First and foremost, the second set of people that I want to shout out is the Colin McRae Rally Discord, because without them, you know, these games wouldn't have grown in popularity. The community has a lot to thank itself for. And third thing, thank you very much to the guys behind Pixels for People for allowing me to, first of all, kickstart the event, which I've never done. I've never kickstarted any event off myself. And the second thing is obviously allowing me to show off what I can do with this game. So yeah, big thank you. And yeah, I'll pass it back over to the host. But yeah, thank you very much for having me, and enjoy the rest of the marathon. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for being here. Everybody, go ahead. If you like racing games, give ViperRaces a follow over on his Twitch channel. We had a donation while we were watching the end of that lap by Maddox86 of $25. The only thing that I can drive is a donation meter, so let's go with that. Absolutely, let's get those revs all the way up on that donation meter if you can. He went ahead and sent that money over to Astalon, the display style on CRT, and the target of Owlboy, glitched cutscene. Stick around, everybody. That was the first run. We've got a whole weekend of runs coming up. The next one is Mega Man 2 Any Percent, being run by Style Bozen. Go ahead and grab yourself a drink, some food. We'll be back very shortly.